Your house is worth whatever it's worth, right? Whoever sells it. Wrong. I'm Charlie. Welcome to Moving Home with Charlie, and thank you for coming.
Charlie Landing grew up in Sussex, is the founder of Best Agent and presenter of Moving Home with Charlie.
If you want to find one of these guys, look out for those compassionate professionals. All estate agents are not the same.
So Charlie, what would be your advice for people interested in buying new builds right now?
Don't overpay. Do buy, but don't overpay. That's why I say disregard the guff. Read into the numbers and look, and it's buried. The bad news is buried in the small print, okay?
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Property Press Awards.
They may or may not be telling the truth, but you should form your own view. Get out and view, get out and view, get out and view. You cannot be in a position to make offers and have the offers accepted if you're not viewing. So be out there viewing. Pay attention to the back of the class. If you've not been watching my videos, I did one just a couple of days ago. Disregard the guff. Oh, that was a good slurp and a lovely cup of tea. Thank you, tea lady. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Moving Home with Charlie. I'm Charlie Landon. Oh, I haven't got that. There we are. Let's get that up on the screen. And today it is 8:30 in the evening on the 31st of March. And if you have not had confirmation from your conveyancer that you have completed on your purchase or sale by the time you're watching this video, if you're watching it live, and certainly if you're watching it afterwards, then I'm afraid you've missed the deadline for the reduced stamp duty. And in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain in painful detail what's now going to happen to stamp duty, what it's going to cost people, first-time buyers, other buyers. We're going to talk about what it might do for prices. And we're going to talk about today's Bank of England mortgage approval figures for February, which I expected to be much higher because of the stamp duty deadline, and they're not nearly as high as I thought. Who do we have watching this evening? God, lots of you. Hi, Gavin. First in for the Doomsday live stream. E-Gold, hi there. Hi, Teddy. Interesting. Teddy Kleindienst, who is a Southwest London agent, says, in my humble opinion, I can see the biggest percentage hit in the 500 to 600k house market, where we are solely talking about the new stamp duty effect. Houses expected to sell at realistically 550 will lose a huge audience, and thus this price bracket will suffer the most. Interesting, Teddy. Thanks for that input. Liam Jennings, hi there. Ricky Heath, Roni, Carlos, Digger, Payne and Son, Jack Waldron. The big question is, what's going to happen to the market activity as a whole? And I'd like to begin by welcoming all new subscribers and new followers and new viewers, and restating my position that stamp duty is a self-defeating tax, and stamp duty on homes, the purchase of homes, right, is a self-defeating tax, because the idea of stamp duty for the government is to raise money for the government. I put it to you that if there was no stamp duty on home purchases at any level, as long as it's your first home, as in your only home, moving from one home to the next, there would be no stamp duty, would result in a bigger tax take for the government on the back of much higher transaction volumes, better social mobility, better employment in the moving industry, which is a big employer when it gets busy, and just a general all-round feeling of better social mobility. Because I don't know if you guys know this, right, but Rightmove came along 25 years ago in the year 2000, round about there, okay? And back then, it was faster and easier to sell or buy a home than it is now. Well, that's 25 years of progress for you with the internet and technology, hey? It's an absolute joke how slow and painful it is. And what that does is it puts a lot of people off moving at all. This stamp duty hike affects everyone, even those who are buying below the new reduced threshold, first-time buyers, because it's going to have an effect on the market as a whole. But if there was no stamp duty for downsizers, and the stamp duty up at the higher levels is eye-wateringly large sums of money, it would release so much stock up into the market, and it would put downward pressure on prices, which would make affordability better, etc., etc. But unfortunately, for a long time now, not just this Labour government, but the previous Tory government and the ones before that, just don't seem to see the bigger picture of the benefits of removing what is a tax on social mobility. Doesn't make any sense. Right. In my clickbaity title, that figure, £6,250, is the maximum increase of first-time buyers who are buying up to the £500,000 new limit. If you're paying more than £500,000 for a property as a first-time buyer, you don't get first-time buyer stamp duty relief. Okay. And for those of you, there's a trick. It's a perfectly legal trick. Make sure you check it with your conveyancer. But if you're buying a house for just over 500,000, let's say the price is 510 or 515,000 pounds, there are perfectly legitimate ways to make the house transaction 500,000 to keep yourself below the stamp duty threshold of 500,000, so that you do get first-time buyer relief, and the extra 10 or 15,000 can be paid for fixtures and fittings or that sort of thing. Other things related to the purchase, they have to be legitimate, right? But sometimes that's how, if your agreed price is close to a stamp duty threshold, you can legitimately remain under it. I mean, you know, if you try and put a fridge through for 25 grand, then I think eyebrows would be raised in several places. But if it's curtains and carpets and fixtures and fittings and white goods and, you know, this, that, and the other, there are. And actually, another way I know, now, I'm not a lawyer, and I'm not certain this is entirely legal or not. I believe it is. But one of the ways that I know one buyer who did it, in other words, kept the price just below the stamp duty threshold, even though the agreed price was slightly higher, was that the seller agreed to the lower price, but the buyer paid for the seller's conveyancing costs. Now, I reckon there might be some question marks over the legality of that. But nevertheless, if you are in the ballpark of being very, very close to a threshold. So, for example, if you're now a first-time buyer buying at 300,000 and the price you've agreed is 305 or 310,000, talk to the agent, talk to your conveyancer about how legal ways in which you can get the transaction at 300,000 and the extra can be paid in other ways. Okay. I'm not advocating breaking the law. I would never do such a thing. But I am advocating exploring all the ways of avoiding unnecessary tax. Makes me sound like a massively wealthy tax evader, doesn't it? That's a hot topic. Right, guys. I have put a link below to the stamp duty calculator for you in the description below. But let's just start. Let me show you, first of all, the Bank of England mortgage approval numbers that came out today. And these are not the ones you see in the headlines, right? These are the actual figures, not the seasonally adjusted ones. And what we're going to do is we're going to compare the most recent number with the same number this time a year ago, so that we're comparing apples and apples, right? So all the headlines that you see about mortgage approvals are always on seasonally adjusted. And it's just not helpful when you're looking at this, at what's happening in the market right now. So here we are, not seasonally adjusted, right? Can you see that? Not seasonally adjusted. Date. There we are. So that's today's figure that came out, and it's 60,913 mortgage approvals in February 2025. Now, because of the stamp duty deadline, I was really expecting a much bigger spike in transaction volumes than this, especially at the first-time buyer level. But if we scroll down, a year earlier, there it is right at the bottom, just under 59,000. That's only 1,984 difference. 1984. There's a relevant number for us, right? That's 3.3% higher than this time last year. And given the fact that there is a stamp duty deadline that we were told created a big rush of people wanting to beat it, that's a disappointingly low number. And I would have expected that number to be closer to 70,000. And what that tells us is that the market is really not as good as anyone hoped it would be in terms of transaction volumes, because everyone's better off with more transaction volumes. So it's already weak. This is February. This is the second to last month before the stamp duty deadline, when you really would have expected to see much higher volumes, and they didn't happen. They were up on January, but they were, I mean, just to, again, put it into perspective, we had, look, in October last year, 72,000, right? Nearly 73,000. So 70,000 wouldn't have been a surprising number at all. So it's really surprising to see it at almost 10,000 below that, at 12, 14% lower. That's genuinely a surprise and a shock to me. And it doesn't bode well for the market. And that's not at just first time buyer level, that's at all levels. Never mind. Let's get on to the stamp duty, actual nuts and bolts of stamp duty now. Okay, so for those of you who are new, stamp duty is a purchase tax, a tax paid by the buyer, not the seller, on people buying residential property. And depending on whether you're a first-time buyer or not, depending on whether it's your first home or it's a second property or not, depending on whether you are an overseas buyer or not, there are all kinds of different calculations, not just on the property you're buying, but who you are and how many you've bought before. So actually, the rates you pay are personal to you. They're not standard across the market. They are personal to you and your circumstances, as I will show you. So rates for a single property. This was up to today, okay? And this, I want to show you the difference. So up to today, and this is not for first-time buyers, this is the standard rates for everyone else. You could buy a property up to £250,000 and pay zero. So nobody, up to today, completing today, nobody paid any stamp duty up to £250,000. And that just changed. That basic threshold just changed, right? From April the 1st, from tomorrow, up to 125,000 is zero. So it's halved, okay? And they then, so the next 675,000, so the portion from 250,001 to 925,000, 5% is what you pay on that. What you were paying up until today. So it's 5% and then 10% up to 1.5 million, and then 12% on anything above 1.5 million. Okay. So an example, and this is quite a good example, for a £295,000 property up until today, the tax you would have paid as a not first-time buyer would have been £2,250. As of tomorrow, that £295,000 property, as of tomorrow, will now cost £4,750 in stamp duty. Okay, so that's the lowest level. That's a £2,500 jump for someone buying a property at £295,000 who's not a first-time buyer, right? That's an extra £2,500 on, these are average price properties around the country for non-first-time buyers, right? And in a market where everyone's struggling and everyone's feeling the pinch and getting your hands on money is a bit harder, saving up a deposit is a bit harder, that is a meaningful enough transaction cost to erode transactions. First of all, it means some people won't be able to afford it now, if they were right, if they'd only just managed to save up enough to do it. Secondly, some people are going to go, that's just too much, not worth moving now. Or they're going to offer less, so sellers won't want to come down so much. We'll come on to that in a minute. But it at best, it has no impact, and at worst, it slows things down. Now let's have a look at how this has changed for first-time buyers, right? So if you're buying your first home, up to today, there was no tax up to £425,000, right? Up to today, nothing up to £425,000. As of tomorrow, that's now dropped to £300,000. But they've taken an example here of a £500,000 property from a first-time buyer. Okay, so up to today, if you were buying a first-time buyer home at £500,000, which in London and the South East is not uncommon, right? Your total tax bill, your stamp duty, was £3,750. Wait till you see what it is as of tomorrow for the same £500,000 first-time buyer home, right? As of tomorrow, it's 10 grand. So it's just jumped from 3,750 to £10,000 from tomorrow for first-time buyers. Now, I heard a lot of people, I saw a lot of people on one of the platforms going, well, if you can afford £500,000, you can afford an extra 6 grand. That's absolute nonsense. Most first-time buyers buy with a mortgage, and they're buying with a 90% mortgage. And to buy that, they've had to save up 50 grand for their deposit for a £500,000 house, plus their conveyancing fees, plus their what was £3,750 stamp duty, 55, nearly 60 grand, including all the removal costs, that kind of stuff. That's another 10% they've got to save up extra now. Okay? So think about how long it takes to save up deposits. Some people it's 10 years. That's another year of saving for someone in that position. It's not, for a £500,000 buyer, a 6 grand increase is commensurate to a £295,000 buyer seeing a 2 grand increase in their stamp duty. It's proportional, right? And again, what's this going to do? It's going to mean first-time buyers are finding it harder. Because, and here's the key thing, right? You cannot add this to your mortgage. As far as I know, I'm not a mortgage broker. For any mortgage brokers watching this who want to correct me, I know that Lewis did talk about one particular lender who is talking about increasing their lending to cover up to £6,000 of stamp duty, I think. So one lender's done it, but generally speaking, most lenders won't lend for you to pay a tax bill. They won't give you a secured loan, which is what a mortgage is, to pay a tax bill. All right. Now, if you're buying your second home, you'll usually have to pay 5% on top of that, right? It's ouchy. Where are the... Yeah, so where's the calculator for that? And then there's rates if you're not a resident. But yeah, for your second property, and if it's not, so this would also apply to people like buy-to-let landlords, extra 5% stamp duty. Okay. Now, I've put a link below to the calculator. Do we have any questions on this so far? John HS says, seeing a lot of reductions in the last few days, mostly in the £300,000 to £400,000 bracket. Yeah. Said, I viewed a house on Friday afternoon. The EA said that they had a very quiet week. It has slowed down considerably in the market. His honesty was surprising. I fear that is a fairly common thing. Freddie Moses says, Charlie, have you got any good news for us, please? I know this sounds like a joke. I am an optimist. I am constantly laughed at by my friends for being too optimistic and over-optimistic and positive, etc. When I used to do optimistic things about the housing market because it was going up, nobody wanted to watch. My channel took off when I realized the market had turned in 2022 and I started telling everyone it had. Is there any good news? I mean, that's a good question, Freddie. That's a very good question. I mean, tomorrow, if you are a first-time buyer on minimum wage, saving up your deposit for your first home, well, as of tomorrow, you get a pay rise. So that's good news for you guys. I just want to get up this rates from first. There we are. Where's that £10,000 mark? Oh, never mind. Let's just stop showing that anyway. So yeah, if you're saving up for a home and you're on minimum wage, you're getting a 12% pay rise tomorrow. I don't know how much that's going to offset how much extra you got to save now to pay the extra stamp duty. Now, for those of you who are first-time buyers below £300,000, which is the new first-time buyer threshold, you won't have to pay any first-time buyer. There'll be no stamp duty for you because you're a first-time buyer if the purchase price is £300,000 or below. And for you guys, it is good news because the rest of the market is going to be experiencing downward pressure on prices because of stamp duty. And by the way, because stamp duty is different for different kinds of buyers, the effect on house prices is not uniform. Okay. Oh, okay. I'm going to just tagging a couple of these comments. That's really good news to see. Sorry, okay, I'm being distracted by. I'm going to stop looking at that. So, what's the effect going to be on house prices for this? If you wanted to ask me what is the overall general effect, I would say that you can expect, on average, which doesn't happen for anyone individually, but when you look at the market as a whole, you can see a pretty much overnight drop of prices, but it's kind of already happened for buyers who weren't ready to complete by today. There will be a sort of half of the difference. So for those 300 grand properties with a £2,000 increase in stamp duty for first-time buyers, for other buyers, about £1,000, so about like a 0.5% or so will come down. So it's quite a slight one. But that's only if it was if that was isolated on its own. But when you look at the cumulative effect of stamp duty increases on higher prices, putting down when people are going to pay much higher stamp duty bills on higher up in the chain, it pushes the budgets down all the way down the chain. All right, and it will take a while to work its way through. But the other thing that's much harder to quantify is what is the effect of this going to be on volumes, on transaction volumes? Well, best case scenario, there is no change to transaction volumes, but that's being incredibly optimistic. More likely case scenario, transaction volumes are going to decline now, especially as interest and mortgage rates aren't coming down anytime soon. In fact, the Office of Budget Responsibility is forecasting mortgage rates are going to increase. It's funny how all of the people who, for the last couple of years, have been going, oh, rates are going to come down, rates are going to come down. There are still some people who think rates are going to come down. And maybe they are. Maybe they are. I don't have a particularly strong opinion on what rates are going to do because I think there's too much uncertainty. There are some people who think that the economy is going to dive so badly that the Bank of England will have no choice but to cut rates quite hard to stimulate the economy. Housing Stig has always said that at some point he thinks that, and he's always said that when the economy starts to really nosedive, the Bank of England base rate might come down to 4 or 3.75% for a while. But that doesn't automatically mean the mortgage rates come down, unfortunately. So it's very, very difficult to quantify the cumulative effects of the downward pressure on prices from the new stamp duty increase and the downward pressure on transactions. But it ain't good. That's the point. It isn't good. It isn't good. And I anecdotally, I am already hearing from a lot of agents that it's given that we're coming into spring, it's disappointingly quiet. And of course, tomorrow is the day that employers' national insurance contributions go up quite a lot. So people like me who have people on payroll and I pay tax to the government for the privilege of employing somebody, I will now be paying more tax. So my budget for employment gets squeezed. So that affects pay rises and employment numbers. Not that I'm hiring massively just yet. I might be before too long, but that's a separate story. Okay, let's talk to some of you in the comments. Dimwiddle says completed on a house last Friday. Oh, that's cutting it fine, cutting it fine. You had 1 week to go. Offer accepted in early February. Oh, that's fast. Use the offer template. I've actually linked to the offer template below in anticipation of this coming up this evening. So in the description below is a link to my offer, my first time buyer with a mortgage offer email template. And there's a video that explains how to use it. Use the template, offer 10% below asking on no chain. Wanted to say a big thank you, Charlie. You are welcome, and thank you for letting me know. It makes my day. I've actually had a couple of these today, three maybe today. And I sometimes wonder how many people have used my template, because I look at the numbers of people looking at that on my webpage. It's thousands of you using that template. And I get people every single day, I get messages like this saying, thanks for helping. And it just, honestly, do you know what it's like when you do a day's work and then you find out that it helped somebody? It just lifts your spirits. You know what I mean? It really does. So thank you. And to anyone else watching, if I have in any way contributed to making your move, whether it's your purchase or your sale or your move, I love hearing about it. I genuinely love hearing about it. And I reply to every single everyone that sends me a private message with that story, I always reply to that with a thank you, because I just love hearing it. You know, it's like real job satisfaction, especially in the face of all the naysayers who think that I was talking the market down. Edward Davis, new name. Hello, Edward. Welcome to the channel. You've become my #1 channel. Just put an offer in for an old HMO property for 400,000. Was on for 425, and they immediately dropped asking price to 400,000. Weird. That is weird. Did they accept your offer? Now, questions. Do we have any questions on this? Paulina Novak says, what sort of a madman buys their first property for £500,000 with a 95% loan to value mortgage? Just buy a cheaper one on the larger deposit. I think everyone would if they could, but if you can't get the home you want, and you know, some people are in a very confident financial position where they know they're going to be able to pay it off. Some people just decide to roll the dice and accept the risks. I know people. I have a very close friend of mine who rolled the dice. I mean, it was the early 2000s. And he rolled the dice on a mortgage. He got a mortgage for 10 times his salary. Don't ask me how, but he did. And he bought this fantastic loft warehouse apartment in London. Did very well in his job in the city, paid it off, ended up, and it shot up in value. So every now and then it works. That's not happening right now, though, guys. That's not happening right now. And this is another reason why it's a terrible time for them to put stamp duty back up, by the way. When the housing market is going gangbusters and everyone's making loads of money on it, nobody really cares about the stamp duty, do they? It's just like it's an entry fee to get on that amazing runaway train of house prices when it happens. When house prices aren't doing that, and when everyone's struggling a bit and it's all looking a bit cliff edgy, it's a really, really bad and stupid time to put stamp duty up. I know it upsets some people, but honestly, with the most impartial, objective outlook in the world, it's so difficult not to see this government as completely out of their depth and having no clue what they're doing as far as the economy is concerned, at least. Oh, WJB says, are transfers between siblings subject to stamp duty? I don't know that for certain, but I would imagine so. Yes, I would expect that to be the case. But talk to a conveyancer or a tax lawyer, because there might be ways, there might be special family ways that you can avoid it. I don't know. Okay. Let's do this. This will be fun. Trance Space 007 says, for a chuckle, can you show second home stamp duty calculation on a £600,000 home purchase? Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do that. That is fun. Hang on a second. Where is the link to the calculator? I know it's below. Here we are. Okay. Let's just do this together for the gits and shiggles. Right, let's say it's a freehold property. Can you see this, guys? Yes, you can. Right, freehold, residential, and the completion date is going to be the 1st of April 2025. So tomorrow, continue. No. Yes, purchasing it as an individual. Yes, it will result in owning 2 or more properties. Not replacing the main residence. And 600,000. Check your answers. Calculate your tax. 50,000 pounds, guys. 50 grand. What does everyone think about that? Stamp duty on a 600 grand second home, 50 grand. I think that's why Teddy is quite right when he says that's the area of the market that's going to get hit the hardest, isn't it? Wow. I mean, as a transaction cost, what do you think of that, right? Are you going to just spaff 50 grand to the government to get a second or to move your second home? I know that no one has any sympathy with people who own second homes, but my point is it affects transaction volumes, doesn't it? Desiree Douglas asks, Charlie, do you think that the stamp duty will result in more downsizing? Sadly, well, I mean, no, I think it's going to result in less downsizing because downsizing is going to become even more expensive for the downsizers because they won't have to pay stamp duty on what they're selling. Their buyers obviously will. But the property they're moving into is now going to have a even higher stamp duty than it did today, as of tomorrow. Connor asks, hi, Charlie, new to the channel. Welcome. Always love new victims. Looking at £250,000 houses, do you expect houses at 270 grand, 290 to start to lower because of stamp duty changes? They wouldn't. You can't expect them to lower 20 grand, 20 to 40,000, because at that level you are first of all below the £300,000 threshold for first-time buyers, so it's not going to affect first-time buyers at all. And secondly, the people who aren't first-time buyers are their increase in stamp duty is only about £2,000 at that level, £2,500. So no, you can't, because of stamp duty, expect reductions of that price, but of that size. But what the point that does raise is that what this situation is going to do is it's going to increase the standoff between buyers and sellers. And I think that one of the problems right now with sellers not lowering their prices is because sellers have not factored in the roughly 50% increase in the cost of maintenance and refurbishment of homes. Right? They just haven't factored that in. And buyers are looking at things they're going to buy that haven't been decorated for 10 years or more, going, well, that needs redecorating. What's that going to cost? Getting the quotes and going, well, that's going to cost a lot more than would have done 5 years ago. And sellers aren't factoring that into their expectations on price, neither are agents. And so, ultimately, at some point, there is always a tipping point. Will we reach that tipping point this year or not? I don't know. Are the chances of reaching that tipping point where just lots of stuff starts coming in the market and prices start tumbling? The chances of reaching that tipping point this year have increased because of the economy, because of jobs, etc. So if there is a really bad market, and by that I mean very few transactions and sellers really struggling to get their prices and buyers being very, very nervous, and so therefore prices falling. If that happens this year and into next year, so the second half of 2025 and into 2026, I will feel vindicated about what I've said since 2022 I expected to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. WJB says the effect is precisely the net present value of the future cost of SDLT. It isn't, because it depends on the buyer. It depends on the buyer. The different buyers pay different stamp duty rates. Andy Maidman says good for moderate upsizers, I'd say. Yeah, quite right. Yeah, it is definitely good for upsizers. Oh, wow. Okay, so Freddie is... he's revealed himself. He's taken off the mask, and Freddie Moses, who's a name I don't recognize, forgive me if you have been on the channel before, has revealed himself as a Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors valuer. And I've been seeing a lot of boomer downsizing in the past 3 years. Yes, I called that 3 years ago. I was also the beneficiary of an £80,000 deposit contribution. That is massively helping the market. Okay. From your boomer parents downsizing. Okay. All right. Well, good for you. Well done. Lucky you. Yeah, transactions have been pulled forward, and so there will definitely be a slowdown in volume. Absolutely right. There's not going to be a spring bounce this year, guys. And do you know how many sellers there are? Don't get me started on landlords. Don't get me started on landlords right now. How many sellers there are who are completely oblivious to the fact that there is any weakness whatsoever in the housing market. I just saw a GB News headline about how the ONS is saying that house prices are soaring up in all areas of the country. Not true. Not true. The ONS's representation of house price growth is comparing unrevised figures from recently with revised figures from a year earlier. And therefore, they're comparing apples with oranges, and the growth figure is absolutely not true. It is incorrect and misleading because the year ago's figure is always revised down quite a lot, right? 2 to 3% from its first readout. So they're comparing, if that's last year and that's this year, that's been revised down. So suddenly the growth looks bigger than it actually is. And I've been saying this for several months. It doesn't seem to be stopping them. Looking for questions. Yeah, I mean, Michelle says a recession is looming. I think, first of all, we've been in a per person recession. We've been in one for 3 years. It's been sliding for 3 years. So at an individual level, we have been getting poorer as a country. In terms of the national GDP figure, I mean, the ONS keeps on pulling and its data and saying it's just literally been scraping along at 0, plus 0.1, minus 0.10. But for a while now, we are definitely in, as far as I'm concerned, there are so many signals, especially in the car market, secondhand cars and classic car market. We are in full-blown recession now. Oh, another one. Paulina says, I also completed a one-bed flat in Southeast London, March 21st. Used Charlie's offer template and the conveyancing firm. Fantastic! Congratulations, and thank you for using my conveyancing guys. They're good, aren't they? Hopefully you had a good experience with those guys. And you moved in last Friday. Look, genuinely makes me genuinely happy. Gives me the feels right here when I know that I've helped someone into a home. I mean, what could be better than getting into a home? I mean, getting into your own home or getting out of a home you need to sell. Gets me, really does. Makes me very, very happy. Okay, so Freddie is replying, Freddie the surveyor replying to Patricia saying, agents are desperate. I speak to them every day and the phone is quiet. I get answered within 2 rings. Yeah, it is. Freddie, what part of the country is that? Roselli 2007 says, does this mean there won't be any houses coming on the market now this year? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It actually means the opposite is more likely. And we've already got the highest level of unsold homes on the market for over 10 years. And that's just going to keep going up now, especially because you're about to see the spring bounce where lots of people come and put their house on the market in the spring to catch the spring bounce. I mean, if the spring bounce materializes in any way, shape, or form, I will be astonished. But so you're going to see a lot more property coming onto the market, and I will be tracking that with. Hold on a second. Let's just get the best agent asking price index up. Do we have? We got. Yeah, 25th of March. So check this out. This is on bestagent.news if anyone wants to go and see it themselves. So this is updated periodically. And so at the moment, we've got 3.3 for sale to 1 showing as sold. So that's 411,000. This is England alone. This is excluding Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. And 123,000 showing as under offer, right? And that number, if you can see, right, this was over 7 days. In 7 days, that number, right, which is unsold homes for sale, went up 3.7%, and in the same period, that number did not rise. And these are fluid numbers, right? They're changing all the time. So, in other words, there are 3.7% more homes for sale than there were a week before that, but the number of sale agreed homes has stayed the same. That tells you that there's not enough selling and there's more and more coming onto the market. So Roselli 2007, no, you're going to see more coming on the market. Yeah, D Griffo says, not a question, but it's almost funny that Labour can allow stamp duty to rise so significantly, and more people have to pay thousands more. Real economy booster, exactly. It kills the economy. The point, it's worth pointing out, it was the Tories who implemented the stamp duty threshold increase as a temporary one, and they set tomorrow's date as the date that it reverts. Labour could have extended it and chose not to. Profound Familiarity says, I think tax the rich has already happened. Let's not go there in this video. Okay, YBA asks, as a first-time buyer couple, making around 55,000 per year in total, no kids or pets. Oh, I remember those days. Should we get a property just under 300k, forever home, or play it safe and get a flat and then upsize in 5 years? Ah, that's a very good question. That is a very good question. And my immediate, like, if I was in the situation you specify, I would get your forever home if you can, because getting a flat and then upsizing in 5 years, you may not get your money back on the flat because flats are struggling compared to freehold houses. So if you have the option to get into your forever home for under £300,000 now, if it was me, I'd want to do that, because moving is a massive pain in the bum. And if you can make it so you don't have to move again in 5 years' time, you'll thank yourself. That's everyone's going to make their own decisions, right? But that is what I would do in the situation that you describe. But it's up to you, obviously. Teddy says, people hate to admit it, and I don't blame them, but Teddy's always right in the end. Yes, Gavin Ward puts YBA's question answer slightly more bluntly than I did. Buying a flat is not playing it safe, it's financial disaster. That's what I was kind of hinting at. Leandro Z says, hey Charlie, I bought a flat for £275,000 last year in Southeast London, and a month ago they sold an apartment in the same building for over 280,000. I guess I didn't overpay. Using your template, of course. Congratulations, well done. You didn't overpay, and your flat hasn't gone down in value. That's good. Good to know. Hopefully, you're going to be staying there for a long time. John Evans says, do you expect the total cost of buying to stay the same? So by that, I think you mean our price is going to come down by the same amount stamp duty goes up. Not exactly, no. It will vary depending on the property price level and the buyer's particular stamp duty exposure. Oh, I see. Edward Davis follows up to that earlier question saying, the question is for that property, 400,000, they didn't accept it. Are they going to get more offers? They did not know what the price might be. Yeah. So if they're dropping that, if they've dropped it from 45 to 400,000, they're trying to get more offers. It's exactly right. They're trying to get offers over 400,000 if they're doing that. Marius Serwin says, I went to view 2 houses over the weekend and there is still demand in North London. It's impossible to negotiate with that demand and agents still overvalue. There are not many houses to sell. Now, listen, guys, no matter what the market does, people still keep being born, getting married, having kids, dying and getting divorced and getting into debt they can't pay. And for those 6 reasons, there is always some demand. Always. And there are certain areas of the market where there's always more demand than others. And so you take a place like North London, houses in North London are, if you want to buy a freehold house in the London area, that's one of the areas where you're going to be looking. There's always going to be a lot of demand for freehold houses in the London suburbs. And that's why, guys, this is why I recommend you check out my first time buyer offer email template. And there's also a cash buyer template. The link is below in the description, or just search on Google MHWC for Moving Home with Charlie, MHWC offer email. Comes up numbers 1 and 2 on Google. Okay, 1 for the mortgage, 1 for the cash buyers. Follow that template. It explains in great detail how to massively increase the chances of your offer being accepted. And in a nutshell, it means by showing proof that your mortgage is already, your decision in principle is there, proof that your funds have been approved by your conveyancer, you've got a conveyancer in place, therefore you are able to proceed much faster than other buyers. And then, Marius, in that scenario where you're competing with other people, in fact, one of the people that told me today that they got their house using my template said they were the 3rd highest offer. There were 2 more offers above them, but my template helped them get their offer accepted. Okay, so just remember that. Don't overpay. Your price should be your price no matter what, whether you're bidding against other people or not. Don't ever go over your maximum comfortable price. Walk away if you must. Spike582 says, I'm looking at houses, £700,000 to £800,000 in Cornwall. I'm in rented and I have a £300,000 deposit for my last property. Should I wait and see? So many sellers are not budging on price and properties are sat there. Right. In this exact scenario that you describe, where you've got the money, you're in rented, therefore you are a highly proceedable buyer and therefore attractive. You are a no chain buyer. You've got a decent sized deposit, so you've got a very good chance of your mortgage being approved. So you are unlikely to have your mortgage refused by the lender because of the amount of equity you're going to have. Plus you're no chain, meaning that in a market where you've got lots of properties not budging, just sitting there, properties just sat there for long periods of time, you've got to get your boots on and get out there and view as many as you can, and specifically go and view the ones that have been sitting on the market for a very long time. It's amazing how many of those houses have been sitting there for ages, and nobody viewing them. And the seller's just waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. And they don't want to drop the asking price, but actually, if an actual buyer comes along with a solid offer, in other words, it might be way below what they're asking, but it's proceedable. You've got everything lined up and you can say, look, I can exchange in 14 days, right? Provided the mortgage survey goes through okay and the survey's okay, I can exchange immediately the survey's done. There are not all of them, right? But some of the sellers of those properties that have been on the market for a long time are going to look at your offer and go, if we say no to this, we could be waiting another 6 months. Should we just take it? And they might try and come back and go, oh, we want you to offer a bit more. And you just go, if you've offered your maximum comfortable amount, you go, no, that's my offer. So no, don't wait. If you want to buy a home, don't wait. Be out viewing, because if you're not out viewing, you cannot be in that position where you find a place you fall in love with and you put in your offer that's below the asking price, and lo and behold, the seller decides to accept. It happens, but it only happens. What's the phrase from Only Fools and Horses? He who dares, Rodders. He who dares. Get out there and view. Get out there and view. And use my offer template. It works. It massively increases your chances of having your offer accepted. And if your budget is up to £800,000, Spike 582, I would be looking at stuff that's on the market at £1 million. If it's got an asking price of up to £1 million and it's been on the market for longer than 6 months, and I liked it, I would be going to see those properties. I'd at least be asking. Graham Lysett asks, do you think the government measures of late are intentionally aiming to put downward pressure on the housing market? No. They don't want that to happen. It causes all kinds of problems for them with GDP figures and bank lending and all kinds of stuff. So the government never wants house prices to come down. I think the government, as far as the economy is concerned, is just in a flat spin. They don't know what they're doing. They're panicking, genuinely. Jason says inflation will roar back this year. I know some people think that, Jason. What makes you think that's going to happen? Neil Big H says you should point out that the 600k second home stamp duty is 47,500 if they move before tomorrow, so it's only £2,500 extra. That's true. So your point you're making very, very correctly is that second home stamp duty is already nearly 50 grand, and they wonder why their market's stagnating. Carlos says, surely things will only hit the fan when the media narrative shifts. Too many people with their head in the clouds currently. Well, I would have thought that a couple of years ago, Carlos, but when you combine very poor journalism, which just parrots press releases without checking them, without challenging them, that house prices are going to the moon and everything's fine, and you couple that with sellers going, ooh, our house is worth lots of money, and agents going, yes, your house is worth whatever you want it to be as long as you sign with me, you end up with this scenario. Christopher Smith says, thanks for answering my question last week. I'm hopefully first-time seller in the near future and taking a lot of advice from you. Excellent. Thank you. You're very welcome. Hope it helps. God, I'm way behind on these questions, aren't I? Let me see if I can... Piecemeal. Oh, what a great question. What a great question. Piecemeal says, what should sellers do when estate agents come round and overvalue their properties? That is a fantastic question. So if you are a seller who understands that the market will decide what your property sells for, and therefore you understand that it doesn't matter what you think you want for it, or what you think it's worth, or what you say you won't sell for less than, right? If you're that seller, I can't help you. Good luck, but I can't help you. If you're a seller that wants to move and accepts that the market will decide the price, but you want to make sure that you get the best price the market will pay, the only way to do that is to get as many people viewing as possible in the first 2 weeks so that you get competing bidders. That's how you find out what the market will pay for that property at this time. So what you should say to agents who come round is, you go, I don't care what you think it's worth. I don't care what you think it's worth. I know that the market will determine the value of my property. So do not come around here and try and trick me into signing with you with an over-optimistic valuation. What I want to know is, and this is the golden $1 million question when it comes to asking an agent when you're trying to see if they're a good agent or not. What is the process you use to ensure that we will get competing bidders on this property? What is the process you and your agency use to ensure we get competing bids on this property? Most agents will not have a convincing answer to that question. Oh, well, yeah, we're on Rightmove. So are all the other agents. Oh, we're on Zoopla. So are all the other. Oh, we'll email it out to our database. So will all the other agents. None of those things are the right answer, because the right answer will include the fact that they'll say, well, the most crucial part of making sure we get maximum number of interest and viewers and buyers bidding against each other is the launch price. And so the most important thing to talk about is, how do we work out what the launch marketing price should be? If you hear an agent say that, you've probably got a good, rare agent there. And secondly, always ask what an agent's sole agency contract is. The best agents don't have any at all. And they say to a customer, if you're not happy, you can leave at any time. If you're not happy, we don't want you to stay with us. You are free to leave without penalty. You can go to another agent anytime you want. The bad agents will go, yes, we can get you millions of pounds for your property. Just sign here. And that signing here is a long sole agency contract of up to 6 months. And any agent that says to you that they want you to sign anything more than 8 weeks should ring massive alarm bells and red flags. Whoa, 12 weeks, 20 weeks. Sorry, I thought you said you could sell my house. If you can't get it under offer in 4 to 6 weeks, I don't want to use you. That is the question, right? When you ask an agent, what's your sole agency lock-in period? And they go, well, it's 20 weeks. 20 weeks? Why would you need 20 weeks if you know the market we should find out the market in 4 to 6 weeks? No. Oh, you've lied to me about my house's value to try and trick me into signing on the dotted line. Get out of my house. David M 87. I completed today as a first-time buyer. Oh, talk about squeaking in under the wire. I'm grateful for your advice. I've been watching your videos for 2 years. Oh, David, congratulations. That was cutting it fine. You completed today. Oh, how much stamp duty did you save? Please tell me that you're someone who's actually, because if it's below 300,000, you haven't saved anything, have you? Please tell me you saved something on stamp duty by getting that done today. Wow, Joanne Ward. I didn't know this, Joanne. You didn't tell me this, did you? Or did you? Joanne's referring to Spike, who's looking to buy in Cornwall. Says, we were looking to move back to Cornwall in 2020. Didn't happen because of prices. We've just bought a 5-bed, 4-bath for 385k. Wow. What other country is that? Yes, Jill369 makes a very, very good point. The council tax and energy price increases will start to affect people's affordability. That's right. When you talk to an independent mortgage broker, they will run through all of your bills to work out your precise affordability based on your repayments, your monthly bills and repayments. And so the rise in council tax and the rise in energy prices is going to affect how much people can borrow, and that's going to have a knock-on effect on house prices. MD, I've got the first part of your message there. I can't see the second part of it. I'd love to know where that was going. This message here, MD on YouTube. First time cash buyer here, currently renting and happy enough where we are. Got all my ducks in a row, solicitor and source of funds cleared, and use your offer template on a what did you use it on? I want to know. Clement Moraski. Lots of you chatting about the value of gold in there. Clement Moraski saying, if only my salary were a fixed sum of gold. I'm trying to catch up with your comments here. Okay, here we are. Gemma Middlehurst, here's a question. Me and my partner are buying a house together. I am already a homeowner, but this will be his first time buying. How does this work with stamp duty and any other first time perks? You need to make sure that whoever's your representative advises you on this. But my understanding is that if you are buying in joint names, You cannot buy as first-time buyers. If either one of you has ever owned a property, either here or abroad, and by the way, HMRC can check up out abroad. They rely on you signing statements swearing you never owned another property anywhere else. They don't tend to check every single one, but if they do check up, you're in big trouble, because HMRC hates being lied to more than it hates not being paid. Yeah, so you won't get any first-time perks. The only thing is that if your partner, if it's his first time, unless he buys it in his name alone as his own first time, then he might get it. But if you're doing it together, then you won't. No, Edward Davis. So the ONS revises its last year down and bases current year not on revised down figures. No, they're unrevised. If they revise them down in anticipation, then they'd be comparing apples and apples. But they're comparing the way they do it makes it look artificially high. So the first month I checked it, they said prices have gone up 4.6%, and their numbers showed it was 2.3%, literally half. Oh, here we are. MD's. Oh, the suspense was killing me. First time buy cash buy here. We used your offer template on a 3,000 square foot 5-bed and were rejected at 5% below asking, 10k below what the agent valued at. Oh no, that's annoying. House has been on the market 3 months, by the way. Okay. Have they accepted someone else's offer, or are they just trying to hold out? Because if they're just trying to hold out, just be patient. Just be patient. Yeah. Keep looking elsewhere, but sometimes those ones come back to you. John Parnell says, Charlie, I'm upsizing following a family inheritance. Congratulations. Very nice for you. Would I, and also great time to be upsizing. Would I be better off selling my flat and temporarily renting instead of buying at the same time so I can become a mortgage-free cash buyer? In my opinion, and if I was in that situation, yes, it's always better to sell, complete that transaction, and then become an unencumbered, proceedable buyer. Cash or mortgage, doesn't matter. But if you get it right, it is faster to sell, move in somewhere temporarily, and then buy. And you will save money, even with the costs of moving twice, compared to trying to do it all in one go and being open to chains falling apart, and your sale affecting a purchase and vice versa. So if you have the option to either rent or stay with friends or family or van life or whatever, I would definitely sell your flat first. If you sell as a no chain seller, you get more interest. More interest means more viewings, more offers, and a better price, and it sells more quickly. And then the same when you're buying. If you're buying as a no chain buyer, you're in a better position to have a better offer accepted. Oh, lots of good feedback coming through. Miss Jane says, I wonder if anyone mistakes the slurp for the other end when listening back in the podcast. What an odd thing to wonder. Well, yes, and special hello to everyone who's listening to this on audio podcast. Yeah, I'd love to know if you listen to this audio podcast. This is the noise, by the way. If any other parts of my body made that noise, I'd be very, very worried. Roni Bomik says, Dear Charlie, the estate agents are not giving realistic prices to the buyer or seller. No, and it's to their own detriment that they're making that mistake. If estate agents actually were honest, and I'm working with an estate agent right now who came to me and said, Charlie, we don't want to overvalue. We want properties that we can sell. How do we win properties from sellers who are being told by other agents that they're worth 20% more? And I told them, talk about the process of getting the highest price. Talk about process, not prices. It's going gangbusters for them. They're doing very well. They're getting sellers. Some sellers are going don't like that idea. I'm going to go with Foxtons. And they go on the market and can't sell. Other sellers are going, that makes sense. I get it. The market decides. You discover the market. Brilliant. And they're doing very, very well. And if more agents did that, they would sell more houses to more buyers. Astor Chan Chiavarella, if I've got that right, got 2 offers withdrawn at the very early stages. Is it worse to sell the property first and go chain free to buy later? Again, same question as I had earlier. It's, if you can, it's better to sell and be a chain free buyer and a chain free seller. Chris says, has anyone ever had an estate agent respond to an email inquiry? Sent out several now and had no response from any of them. Here's a fun fact. 40% of the inquiries that come from Rightmove to estate agents go unanswered. There's a number of reasons for that. Some of them are that a lot of estate agents consider Rightmove inquiries to be time wasters. And unless you actually call them directly and show that you're really at a more advanced stage, they just haven't got time for you. What? Humbly Blessed says, I shared your first time buyer template with my brother. He's in the process of buying his house. His offer was accepted 40k below asking. Woohoo! Fantastic. Amazing result. Victoria Hamilton says, that's me, cash buyer, renting, really serious about moving. Lots of places haven't had offers. I feel sellers are reluctant to accept any. Listen, you only need one. Be prepared to go and view 10 to 20 properties to uncover the one that's yours. It's Somerset, Devon borders, I know that area very well. And of course, sellers are reluctant to accept, but some have to sell. So just be out viewing, be out viewing. Brad UK says, I personally can see a world where people will just have interest-only mortgages and house prices continue to rise. Well, that's what a lot of people relied on in the past, and they got away with it when house prices are rising. But house prices aren't going to continue rising anymore in the same way as they have in the past. See hundreds of my previous videos on that topic as to when you understand why. Look up the 40-year property party is over, Brad. Victoria, are you making the offers with everything lined up? Are your offers like the solid gold-plated offers? It is frustrating though. I'm trying to catch up with the latest questions without missing any good ones. Oh, yes. Thank you, Joanne. North Coast. Yes, I did tell you about our move. Apologies for not remembering that. Used all of your services. Absolutely fab service. Also followed your selling and viewing advice. Works like a charm. So you use my conveyancing partners, my mortgage broking partners, search pack, all of that. Amazing. I'm so glad it worked out for you. Guys, it really, for those of you who are new here, right, I'm here to help people moving, whether you're buying or selling or both. I'm here to cut through all the bullshit that the industry pumps out about everything's just brilliant all the time. It's so positive and everything's buoyant. This says the same old stuff they churn out month in, month out. They never, ever, they can't, by the way. In their defense, estate agents cannot publicly go out and say the market's terrible because nobody would use that agent to sell their house, except for really intelligent sellers who go, I want that agent because if the market's terrible, I want an agent that knows it's terrible and actually. Anyway, most of them will not go out there and say that. So I'm here to help bring truth, the cold, hard truth from behind the scenes of the moving industry, from my estate agency clients, from Best Agent, my property website. And I work with independent whole of market mortgage brokers and independent and 2 different conveyancing firms that I work with because they are outstanding. And if getting moved is more important to you than saving a few £100 and getting really good mortgage advice that isn't in the broker's best interests, but is in your best interests, talk to my guys, please. On my link tree below, and also here mhwc.co.uk/mortgage, and same /conveyancing. Talk to those guys there. And let's keep on cracking through the questions. How long have we been going? Oh God, an hour and 10 minutes. That's the first time I've looked at the watch, at the clock. Patasi Paul says, if you sell and move in with someone instead of being in a chain, wouldn't that affect your mortgage in principle? You wouldn't be a homeowner at that point. No, it wouldn't. Mortgage lenders understand that there can be gaps, which is why some mortgage lenders provide, they'll allow you to transfer your mortgage to a new home, some of them with up to a 6-month gap in the middle for that exact reason. Oh God, they're all coming in today. Rob308 Win says, used your template letter, took a while, viewed mid-Jan, offer accepted, completed today, 25k under Rightmove price, keys in hand. Oh, well done, Rob. Amazing. Another one who's squeaked in under the wire if you completed today. Well done. Did you save money on stamp duty? I hope so. Right. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. I've gone way over time there anyway. I am going to also remind all of you that you can also, if you need to, if you'd like to book time with me, half an hour or an hour, you can book it on my website, mhwc.co.uk. You'll see the links there, or buymeacoffee.com. I'm just looking for the link to put up on the screen for you. And I can't find it. And there's also this page, mhwc.co.uk/all-my-ducks, all-my-ducks, which is where I can sort you out with your mortgage, your conveyancer, and your property search pack. Get it all lined up for you. Other than that, boys and girls, ladies and gents, please make sure, if you are new here, that you go and look at my 10 golden rules for home sellers and 10 golden rules for buying a home on YouTube. If you're new, that's the place to start, right? Each one of those is about 20 minutes long, and it's all of my best advice on moving, buying or selling in about 20 minutes. And if you only have a chance to watch one of my videos, those are the ones you should watch. Go to my YouTube homepage, and the intro video has links to them. Otherwise, just search Charlie's Golden Rules of Moving for Buyers or Sellers, and you'll find it. In the meantime, I've got to go. Thank you all very much. All 1,039 of you currently watching across all the different platforms. Thank you all so much. Please keep your stories coming of happy endings with your move. I always love to hear about those. And otherwise, I hope no one gets too badly affected by all the tax rises happening tomorrow, the 1st of April. And I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.